Hello, vinyl community. In 1961, RCA Victor released a series of test records demonstrating the virtues of stereophonic sound, and this is one of those records. Okay, so in 1961, RCA Victor released a series of records um, that were intended to showcase the virtues of stereo sound. They were called Stereo Action Records. That was the name of the series. There were several of them released. This particular one is Crazy Rhythm, The Sound Your Eyes Can Follow, The Guitars Unlimited +7, which I believe is the name of the band that did the recording. Um, this is not the original sleeve for this. Is actually the inner sleeve, not the outer sleeve. I did have the outer sleeve, but when I bought it, it was not in the best condition. There was some mold, so I didn't keep it. For the most part, it's really not a good idea to keep moldy sleeves. But the inner sleeve was in fantastic condition, and the record is just beautiful. So it's on the early '60s RCA Victor label with the dog and the gramophone. And again, these were released to showcase stereo sound. You can trace the roots of stereo sound back to the 1880s, believe it or not, the original concepts of it. It didn't really take off until the 1920s, and that was really intended more for the movies, so that you could the sound would pan as you would follow the action on the screen. If an actor, let's say, walked from right to left and was speaking, the sound could pan from right to left with the actor's voice, etc. But for popular music, stereo really didn't take hold until the late 50s, certainly not on vinyl. And even then, it wasn't, let's say, mainstream until well into the 60s. And most people couldn't afford high-end stereo equipment. And so it really didn't become predominant until the early to mid 70s. The Beatles, of course, are probably the most famous example. They were notoriously averse to stereo sound, particularly early in their career. And really, not until the White Album did they truly embrace stereo. They were kind of famous for spending weeks sometimes on the mono mixes and masters for the mono versions of their albums, and sometimes would spend a few hours on the stereo versions. So again, they weren't huge believers in stereo at first. Um, and yeah, really until the White Album, mono was where it was at with the Beatles. And even to this day, I think you'll find a lot of Beatles fans that would refuse to listen to uh, a lot of the Beatles uh, catalog in anything other than mono. And I have a number of the remasters, the recent represses of the Beatles albums. With the exception of Yellow Submarine, every single one that I bought was mono. So I guess I fall into that category too. I wanted something that was truer to the sound that the Beatles wanted, and so I got the mono versions. So let's take a quick look at um, the blurb or the information that is on here for this Crazy Rhythm album. So it says one of the problems of recording is the maintaining of consistent sound values. Musical instruments, the men who play them, and the equipment which records them are normally constant, or can be made so. But there is another important element, the physical properties of the hall in which the recording is being done. It is an essential, not so silent partner in the search for superb sound. And it also then goes on to describe how they went about recording this in general detail. If you had been really there, and through the amazing quality of this record, it is almost possible to really be there, you would have peered from the control room and seen 5 guitarists facing you, each opposite his own amplifier. Immediately behind them, Bob placed the bass and drums. I don't know who Bob is, but anyway. The 3 percussionists stood at the left of the guitar section, the accordionist or woodwind player on the right of the guitars. Each guitar amplifier had its own microphone, an RCA 77DX directional. The percussionist had an RCA 10001 mic, an instrument known for its good middle range and fine high frequency qualities. The right hand or solo microphone for accordion or woodwinds was a 47 Telefunken. The drummer had a BK5 mic, and the bassist an Electro Voice 666, used because it has an excellent low end, is directional, and successfully captures the percussive sound of the bass. Kind of boring stuff to a lot of people, but the point is that they're kind of indicating how they positioned the microphones to capture each instrument individually, whether it was left, right, or center. So let's go ahead and have a listen to this, because like it says here, it says the wedding of musical artistry and electronic creativity produces stereo action, literally the sound your eyes can follow. And I think you guys are going to find this interesting. I have never heard a record with such extreme panning to the left and right of the stereo. And of course this this would have been something that a lot of engineers, or certainly a lot of salespeople, a lot of audio salesmen, would have used to help sell stereo to buyers. Particularly as it was so expensive in 1961. The people that would have been buying this, for the most part, would have been fairly well off. But even if you've got the cash to splash, you still need to be convinced, right? So yeah, let's take a listen to it, and I think you're going to find this to be kind of surprising. We're not going to play the whole record, of course. We're just going to play a couple of minutes of it. Believe me, that'll be enough. And but check out the audio quality too, because I think it's exceptional, particularly for a record that was released in 1961. But yeah, the hard panning to the left and right is kind of amusing by today's standards. It's kind of naive in a way, but it's also, you can imagine if you were listening to this for the first time in 1961, you'd never heard stereo before, you'd have been blown away by this. You're used to having all the sound coming from one source, and suddenly it's left and right, it's center. So yeah, thanks as always for watching, everybody. We're gonna stick around. We're gonna play a couple of minutes of this, and until next time, bye bye.